On the 11th of June 2005, we were moved. When I say we, Lenny and I and hundreds of others from Central Jail 3 to Central Jail number 4. No idea why they do these things, but anyway, that day was, for me, a painful day. The temperatures was into the 40s, and we had to pack everything up and go down to the main entrance to the DOD and wait, and then get transferred. I had a bag. Lenny had about 7 bags because there was a lot of stuff in the jail that Lando had left as well. So we hawked all this stuff, and my knees was playing up. The pain from this osteoarthritis was unbelievable. Dehydrated. It took hours to get moved over. Eventually we got to CJ4, and the layout was quite different to CJ3. There was the chaka, like the main office in the middle of the jail, if you like. And there was a big open expanse of grass with big trees all around, and there was hundreds of us just sitting around, just waiting. And at the chaka that we could see was one guy that was completely naked, tied up, and he was getting beaten by officers and whoever. And it transpired that this guy had raped somebody, and when they finished beating this guy about, they then paraded him round every ward as a reminder to the consequences you do these kind of things. And I thought, this is my initiation into CJ4. I wasn't happy at the time, I'll be honest with you. I really wasn't happy. Like, in CJ3 it was comfortable, you know, everything was good, blah, blah, blah. And this was completely unknown. After some time, we got moved to a barrack, Lenny and I, and it just stunk of shit. It was awful. We were there for, I don't know, maybe a week, I can't remember. And then we got moved to another barrack. And we were right at the very back of this barrack in like a corridor in the corner, and it was okay, like. And that week, which would have been like the second week, I think, twice in a week I got bit by wasps. And these wasps in India, they're big wasps, you know. And I got bit twice by these. Fortunately, apart from the initial sort of, what the fuck is this? That was that. So I was quite happy in that respect. And then one night we sitting down, just having a smoke, Lenny and I, and maybe one or two others. And this mouse just appeared from nowhere, run up my leg, inside me shorts, and was nibbling round me bits. Lenny was in hysterics. He was laughing so much, honestly. During this time, I made an application to go to the medical ward. Now, the medical ward in CJ4 consisted of just 20 cells, 10 on one side, 10 on the other, and there was like maybe a space of, I don't know, 4 meters from one side to the other. And a couple of big trees in there, and it was very quiet, very relaxed. And I thought, I can't stay in a barrack, you know, I've been in cells now for a couple of years, and I didn't want to go back to barracks, like. So I made an application based on the fact I got osteoarthritis and tinnitus. I thought, you know, try it out. Anyway, the first application didn't work, so I sent in a second one. That didn't work. So I wrote a third one, and this night I thought, I'm taking it to the chaka myself, and I'm going to wait to see if I can see the AS, the Assistant Superintendent of CJ4. So I goes to the chaka this night with my application, and the head munshi, this is like the right-hand man of the AS, if you like. He was there, so I give him this application. I says, I want to see AS, like, you know. And he hemmed and hawed, and anyway, I just stood there and I waited. And then after about 20 minutes or so, I was called to see the AS. And he was sat behind his desk, all prim and proper, and he looked at my application and he looked up at me and he said, I know you. I said, okay. He says, you committed suicide, CJ1. I was AS. I went, yes, sir. And straight away, this guy got up, just walked out. And then when she looked at me and he, come. So I went and we just crossed over the road into the hospital. Not a hospital really, you know, but it was called a hospital. There was beds in there and that was that. And the AS went to see the chief medical officer. And I was called in and this guy looked at me and he was not happy. That's all I can say. I don't know what, it was a lot of talking going on in Hindi and blah, 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 blah. And then I was told to go. So I went and I stood outside the chakra for another 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever. And the AS come out, spoke to the Munshi, and the Munshi said, get your things, you're going to the medical ward. I was, oh man, if I'd won the lottery, I couldn't have been happier, you know. So I went back to my barrack, just picked up a bag and a couple of bits, left my other stuff there. And I said to this young lad that I got friendly with, I'll be back tomorrow, like. So anyway, I goes over to the medical ward, the head sahib lets me in. And I said, you know, which cell? He went, pick. And there was like maybe half a dozen people spread over 3 or 4 cells, 2 or 3 cells. The rest were empty. So I had a look around. I thought, I'll have cell 19. 19 in numerology is 1, because 9 doesn't exist in that particular instance. And it's the start of new beginnings, you see. So I picked, I had this cell, went in, oh God, it was filthy, like, you know, it was, there was a brush in the corner, so I just swept out some cockroaches and rat shit and whatever, chucked a blanket on the floor, and that was my first night in the medical ward. Next day I went back for my stuff, and that was it. It was like, I knew change was occurring, and I couldn't explain it to myself at the time, but I just knew something was going on, something was happening, you know. And let me just consult my notes a minute. Let's have a look, deal-a-deet. Yeah. Oh yeah. Mick, who was the first guy I sort of really made friends with, and Chris, the Frenchman. Mick was the one that got transferred a couple of years previous, and it really upset me at the time. And it turned out that he was in cell number 2, which was right opposite me. And it was lovely to see him again, you know, and he hadn't changed much. He was still complaining about this, that and the other, and that's how it was. Anyway, a couple of weeks in, I didn't have any tobacco, I didn't have any money. So I went over to see Mick this morning. I said, hey, you got to smoke, Mick? He said, you can have a smoke, Steve, but you're going to have to smoke smack. I thought, oh. I said, yeah, okay. So he made this biddy with smack in it, and I smoked this. Never took smack in my life, you know, I'd only ever smoked charas, you know, marijuana. And it was like, wow, this is different. So anyway, for a week, every day, I was smoking smack. And on this 5th or 6th day, I went in and he'd put a line of smack down. He says, take that, Steve, get that, snort that down your neck. So I did. I didn't know where I was. This was about 8:30 in the morning. It was like as if I floated across back to my cell. Simple as that. I felt as if I was floating. And I laid on the floor and I thought, oh God, where am I? You know, what's going on? All of a sudden, the door was being locked and it was like 11:30 in the morning. I thought, where's the time gone? And I'm still laying there and I'm trying to get my head around what's going on in my brain, and all of a sudden it's open and it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. By this time, Danny, who I'm now going to call TNB, and he knows why, he was the first English guy that I met after I'd been in Tihar for a few weeks. And I hadn't seen him for a couple of years. Met him a couple of times at the jail and once at CJ3, but basically I hadn't seen him. And he'd got himself into the medical ward as well. So for me, it was like happy days all along. Anyway, I got up and I thought, oh yeah, I've got tea to come. And, you know, my brains was up my ass. And I went to see Steve and I said, look, Steve, I've done this. And he went, and he just laughed. He just laughed at me, you know. He says, you fucking Welshman, you're crazy, like. That night, it was the longest night of my life. I had pains in the tops of my toes, to the top of my head. My legs was wrapped around my neck. Every bit of me just ached, you know. The next day I was completely wrecked. I couldn't function very well at all. After that it went, and that was my last experience of taking smack. You know, I thought, no, this is not for me, like. Never took it since, simple as that. And I do seem to have this thing inside of me where, for example, if I go back to 2004 after the August when I moved in with Lando and Lenny, on a couple of occasions we took crack cocaine, smoked this crack cocaine. And Lenny said to me this night we were doing this, and we were like smoking it from about, I don't know, 7:30 at night till about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, going through it. And he says, you've done this before, haven't you? I says, nay, man. I says, I've never done this in my life. And the two of them at some point were in the toilet heaving up. Me, I was like, you know. And again, after the second time of taking this, I crawled back to me fatter and I laid there, and the come down was horrible. So that was my last take of crack cocaine. I'm glad I did it. It was an experience, and at the time, yeah, I was flying high for sure, but it's not something that I would want to do again. I don't seem to have no addiction, even though I've smoked weed, I don't know, 30 odd years. I stopped recently. I stopped at the beginning of December. And I said to my wife, Lynn, I said, oh, I'm going to have a smoke on Christmas Day. So I left it till Christmas Day. I had a smoke on Christmas Day. God, I was so wasted. It was unbelievable. And then I had another smoke a couple of days ago on New Year's Eve. Got wasted again. And now I've stopped. And I've decided that I'm just going to stop for some time. I don't know how long it will be. Whatever it'll be, will be. Anyway, as this video is coming up to 15 minutes, I'm going to stop it here and I will carry on with another one. Just like I've said in the past videos, please If you like these videos, you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to it. Give me a like because it helps to get me onto other channels, and share it with whoever you can. And if you've got any comments, leave comments and I will get back to whoever next time.